hear a pickup truck behind me that's been kind of circling. Don't know what that's about. If it actually starts hailing, I might have to stop and pull underneath the overpass. Hey guys, I recently read 2 different articles and they were very different. One said, I road tripped my EV and it was a complete disaster. That was a Model Y. And the other one said, I road tripped 18,000 miles in my EV and it was a dream. That was an Ioniq 5. So is it a dream or is it a disaster road tripping an EV? And that's the question I plan to answer because this is our long-term Tesla Model 3 performance. And Tommy, who's behind the camera, say hi. Hi, Tommy.
Hi, guys.
Just did a cannonball where he drove it basically from Disney all the way in Anaheim, California to here in Florida. And that video, of course, is coming up.
Today and actually tomorrow and the next day, Andre and I are driving nonstop from California to Florida in a new electric car to try to beat my dad and Nathan's record they set last year. 252 kilowatts, Andre. I feel like I could take down a MiG-22 right now.
If we go into El Paso, it says control your speed, stay below 70 miles per hour to reach your destination. So it thinks we're using too much energy, basically.
75 miles an hour, and now we are completely stopped.
Because we've been here for over an hour and nobody has moved and that exit looks to be closed, it potentially means something really awful has happened. It's really not a good thing.
Went to bed in Texas and we woke up in Texas and it just never ends. I think we're close to beating the record. I know your calculations say we're not. My calculations say we're right on the money. So even with that 2-hour delay, I think we still might take victory today.
Okay, let's do it.
But now I get to drive this car 2,053 miles back to Colorado. And the question is this going to be a dream or is it going to be a disaster? Now, Tommy, you are going to give me some tips on how to make this more of a dream and less of a disaster. So why don't you show me? I'll take the camera and show me the tips that you guys learned doing the cannonball.
Okay.
Across America.
I think that's a good plan. You want to hop in, Dad?
Yeah, let's hop in.
So your trip home is going to be a little different than our trip because Andre, myself, and our videographer Cole, we drove non-stop from coast to coast. We didn't stop to sleep. We didn't stop at hotels. We just stopped to charge and to go pee, basically. Whereas you're going to stop for the night and you're going to have a couple of days to do this trip. But I think I still learned some valuable lessons on how to road trip these cars effectively.
Yeah, tell me, because I'm going to need every bit of lesson I can.
Well, the first thing you need to know is that the Tesla Route Planner is very, very effective. So this is a in-car piece of software that looks at your trip, in this case back to Boulder, Colorado, and tells you exactly where to stop and for how long. So of course, Tesla has thousands of superchargers throughout the US, and the Tesla Route Planner looks at all the superchargers and determines where you need to stop and for how long. And then, it calculates your trip based off that.
So let's look at my trip. So I'm here basically in Marco Island, Florida, which is directly across from Miami, if you guys are wondering, on the Gulf Coast.
Southwest, yep.
And I'm going to drive through Atlanta, right?
Yep, and then you can see all the different stops. So you're going to stop in Brandon, Florida.
Yep.
Then you're going to stop in Lake City, Florida. Yep. Then you head into Georgia. You're going through Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois for just a little bit. And then you're heading west through Missouri, and of course Kansas, and then back into Colorado.
Now the nice thing is it tells you what percentage of charge you'll have when you arrive at each supercharger.
Yeah, and then it also tells you how long you need to go and charge. Now, what I found is that it does a pretty good job of finding a route, and this route will definitely get you there, and these percentages usually are pretty spot on. But what I don't like is that sometimes, if you look through here, Dad, it makes you stop for 45 minutes, 55 minutes in Topeka, Kansas. And what it's having you do there is essentially get a really deep charge into the battery, which sounds fine until you realize that electric cars charge slower up top than you down low.
Yeah, so I'm starting with an 84% battery, which is fine. I don't need to be at 100%.
No, but my point here is, Dad, if you're supercharging, right, you really want to only supercharge, in my opinion, to 50-60%. Because if you go over 60%, speeds really slow down, and then you just end up wasting a lot of time. And
so what you're saying is the charging curve on this particular Tesla is you get a lot of power right up front, and then the deeper you go into the battery. In other words, the more percentage you put in the battery, the less energy it's soaking up, and the longer you're sitting there waiting.
So look at all the superchargers that it's having you avoid, right? The red chargers are the ones you're going to. The gray ones are just potential superchargers, basically. Now let's look at some of these bigger stretches, right? Like through Topeka, Kansas. In some of these stops, it's having you stop for like 55 minutes. Where's Topeka? Here it is. Instead of stopping for 55 minutes in Topeka, Kansas, what I would do, stop there for 15, 20 minutes, and then stop again in Abilene, Kansas. Stop there for 15 minutes.
Because that's a 250 kilowatt supercharger.
Yeah, and then stop in Hayes and stop there for 15 minutes. So rather than doing this really long stretch where you have to wait nearly an hour to charge the car, stay in the lower percentage of the battery range and then stop for less time. So I find that that's to be a good tip. Now another good tip is you have to kind of be mindful about where it's guiding you. So let's look at this supercharger here in Columbia. So it's taking you here in Columbia, but if you look at the stats on this charger, you'll notice that is a 150 kilowatt charger, which is pretty quick, but not up to the potential of what the car can do. Now if you drive just a few miles down the road to the other side of Columbia, you'll notice there's this 12 stall, which is rated at 250 kilowatts. So why not drive just a little bit further down the highway? Granted, this one's a little bit further off the highway, but not too bad, and charge much quicker than you would be if you had stopped here at this first supercharger. So it's important to look at that, or you can skip superchargers and go right to Concordia, which is right on the highway, and that's a 250. So you kind of got to be mindful of where it's guiding you and what it's recommending. Like, look at this one, Dad, in Topeka. This is a great example. In Topeka, it's taking you to a 150 on the west side of town, but if you go to the east side of town, that right there is a 250.
Now I can see all the non-electric car people like screaming like, why do I even need to deal with this? Because if I just used a gas car, then it would be much simpler because there's a lot more gas stations. But think of it this way, charging even at 46 cents, which I think Tesla's charging that for kilowatt, is still so much cheaper than filling it up with gas for the same amount of mileage that you're covering. So I think, I was looking at the charges that you guys had every time you supercharged.
Yeah.
It was like between 10 and 20 bucks every time.
To be honest, Ed, if you're supercharging long distance like this, it's really not that cheaper than gasoline.
It depends on the cost of gasoline.
Yeah, but it's pretty equal. I mean, because we were stopping for 15 to 20 minutes being charged, $10 to $20.
Yeah.
And honestly, the amount of range we were getting is pretty similar to what we'd be paying for gasoline.
Well, if you guys are wondering about that,
you can actually see. Can I show you, Dad?
Yeah.
It shows you the price per kilowatt hour, and it's different on every station. 33 cents, 37 cents.
Yeah, because it varies by state.
It varies by state. It even varies by utility. That one's 35, right? So it depends greatly on. This one is actually variable, 16 to 84, right? Look at this one in Chattanooga, 23 cents to $1.25. So it can vary a lot depending on the stall. But if you charge at home, it's a lot cheaper. If you're road tripping, I think you'll find it's not going to be that much cheaper than gasoline.
Well, if you're curious about that, Tommy and Andre just finished the Cannonball, and we're going to have all those stats in that video.
Oh, yeah.
So, you can look at that. For me, I'm not trying to break a record. I'm just trying to get home, and I'm trying to kind of compare it to doing it in a gas-powered car and seeing how, painful or painless it is. So, is it a dream or, is it a disaster? I'm about to find out over the next 2,053 miles.
Another thing I'll tell you, here's another great example. It's having you stop in Lake City, where it's a 156 stall. That's a really small, kind of crummy station.
Yeah.
If you go up the road to Jasper, you get an 8 stall 250.
Can you tell it that you want to go there instead?
Well, what you can do is you just keep driving, and then it'll redirect you.
Okay.
Now, the other thing, too, you notice is it's having you arrive to these chargers with 17%, 15%, 17%.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go lower than that. If you show up at a charger with 7 or 8%, it's still fine, right? And the route planner is so on the money with your percentage of state of charge you're going to be remaining with. You can be really kind of liberal with how you adjust your speed to bring that state of charge lower.
All right, here, why don't you take the camera? So, guys, I'm about to start this road trip. It's 10 o'clock here in Florida, and I think it's supposed to take like, gosh, I forget how many hours, but how many hours?
It's like 30 hours.
30 hours to get there. So ideally, I could do this in 2 days if I were in a gas-powered car, because it would take me a lot less time to actually fill up the tank. I don't know if I can do it in 2 hours leaving here. I mean, in 2 days. It might be a 3-day trip. So, join me, and I'm excited. It's the beginning of the trip. Let's see how I'm doing tonight after having driven the whole day and charging and driving and charging and driving and charging and driving, which may sound unpleasant, but actually I kind of like stopping after a couple hours, especially when I'm by myself, stretching my legs, maybe getting something to drink. So we'll see what that's like. All right, let's hit the road, Tommy. You're staying here. Actually, you're flying back. You're going to beat me home because you're flying back tomorrow night. So you should be home before I will, even though you're leaving tomorrow afternoon.
All right, Dad. Well, safe journey. Off you go.
Thanks, dude. All right, I'm starting my journey. It is 10:10 Eastern time right now. And, I've been doing a lot of thinking about electric cars. And keep in mind, we've owned, as a company, at least maybe a dozen now. And that includes, this is our 4th Tesla. So we have road tripped, but not recently. Tommy and I drove a Porsche Taycan from LA to Colorado. We also drove, this was quite interesting, a mini electric car from Albuquerque back to Colorado. That had about 100 miles of range, well, 104 to be exact. That was quite the trip. But let's see if it's improved over those few years. Now, this is the thinking I've been doing. Electric cars, unfortunately, have become political. Right? It's no longer about what's the better technology, but it's about what my political belief set is. In America, that would mean, am I a Democrat or am I a Republican? And for the most part, if I'm and this isn't 100% true, but if I'm a Republican, then electric cars are un-American, even though Tesla is American, go figure. And I've got the right to drill for as much oil and burn as much of it in my big old Hemi V8 as possible. And I'm being a little funny and satirical, but you get the idea. And if I'm a Democrat, the stereotype is we need to do something immediately because the world is on fire, and I love hugging trees, so electric cars are cleaner. And there's been all this misinformation out there about where the minerals come from, how hard it is to charge a car. Even those 2 articles. How can you have 2 articles where one says it's a dream and the other one says it's a disaster? Right? They're not articles that are meant to show you what it's like to actually drive an electric car, even though ostensibly that's what they're saying, or at least road trip. What they are articles meant for you to click on them that confirm your personal set of beliefs. But I can tell you this. If I were to say to you, and now let's take out the electric versus internal combustion part, just a car. If I were to say to you, hey, I have a car that you can do 3 things in. Three things in. And I'm going to tell you what those 3 things are. Number 3, you can fill it up at home. You never have to go to a gas station ever again. Number 2, I like to go in the TFL order, 3, 2, 1. Number 2, not only that, but if you fill it up at home, it's going to cost you 80% less than it would cost you to fill it up at a gas station. So it's 80% cheaper to operate. And number 3, you'll never have to go to a dealership, or hardly ever again, because there's no maintenance, there's no fluids to change. Now, just one of those things would be a potential game changer, a disruptor in the automotive world 20 years ago. But 3 of them, and I think whether you are, somebody who loves the environment, or somebody who loves V8s, or somebody who loves both, those 3 arguments, which are basically safety and economic arguments, are going to rule the day. Because who doesn't want a vehicle that's cheaper to operate, can be filled up at home, and doesn't need any maintenance? Now, you can make all the arguments you want about, the rest of it, but those 3 arguments alone, to me, represent the core of why I believe that electrification in the automobile world is the future. Now, if you disagree with me, I have no issues with that. I'm not, once again, trying to get political here. I have no interest in taking, the V8 out of your cold dead garage. I love V8s, as you know. We also own a Raptor R. Hell, I love V12s, V16s even. But as an everyday driver, as something where it costs much less to operate, and I don't have to deal with all of the, baggage that comes along with stopping at a sketchy gas station at 10 o'clock at night in a neighborhood that I'm not familiar with. Like I said, all three of those are potential game changers. Now, does that mean it's easier to road trip? I don't know. But I think we're going to find out, and that's what this video is all about. All right, let's check back with you guys in, the first Supercharger, which according to my little thing here is, let me look here, is in Brandon, Florida, at 12:58 when I'm down to 17%, and I'm gonna have to check to make sure that it's a 250 kilowatt charger and not the 150. In other words, a version 3, not a version 2, and we can talk about that for all of you Tesla newbies out there, which according to the latest news is going to be all you ladies and gentlemen who now own Fords and GMs, because you're going to be using the Tesla Supercharger network at some point, which is much larger than the CCS network. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. All right, well, my first supercharging session is happening, and I did what Tommy suggested. I skipped the 150 kilowatt supercharger and I went to this one. I think it's Land O'Lakes, and check this out. I'm getting 253 kilowatts of charging, which is about as high as this car can ever hopefully get. I got here with 5%. The car said I would get here with 5%. Yeah, that's frankly about as quick as you can charge in the Tesla Model 3. Here's how much I'm paying so far, $2. My charge limit is set to 100%, which I won't go to. And Tesla says that I need another 25 minutes to continue this charging session. And the nice thing about this charger, like I said, is it's a version 3 charger, which means that it's not shared with the other cars. So the V2 chargers, those are 150, but the chargers are shared, so you're really only getting 75 if there's somebody next to you. And you can tell that because they're all numbered and lettered. So this one is 2D right there. Over there, you can see is 2C, and so forth and so on. The other thing about this charger, which I wasn't aware of, is there was one space left, and it is being taken by this Model Y. So whoever comes here next is going to have to wait to charge. And that's interesting because in Colorado, the Tesla Superchargers aren't that busy, but here in Florida, and I certainly know in California, they get very busy. So what'll happen when Tesla opens up all these chargers to cars like the Bolt, the Silverado, the Lightning, people are going to be waiting. At least you're waiting at a Wawa. So there's food to be had. But so far the trip has been a little stressful. Like I said, I skipped the charger that it suggested, which was in Braden, and I went here to Land O'Lakes, I think it's called, which is just a little bit farther. But it did get me into the 250 supercharger, and let's see how long it's holding that 250. I bet you it's already gone down by now. Just because, see, we're already 193, and it's 1 o'clock right now. So I think I'm gonna get some food, use the bathroom, stretch my legs a little bit. I've got 25 minutes to wait here, and then continue the trip. Well, guys, so far it hasn't been a dream or a disaster. It's just been kind of a long road trip. Here in Florida, you know, these things just go on and on and on. It's a big country, but let's see how I feel, as we get further down the road and start traveling north toward Atlanta. All right, now I'm down to 164 already. All right, well, I got a text saying that I have charged enough to continue my trip. So let's see how much charge I got. It's been about 30 minutes. And the great thing about Tesla is that their numbers tend to be spot on. So I figure it said I'd be here 30 minutes, and I've been here 30 minutes, and I'm up to 78% right there. And I'm down to 59 kilowatts, which is, pretty darn slow. But right here, I've got my message. You have enough energy to continue your trip. So let's continue it. Okay, all right. And then my next stop is, where am I gonna go? Let's see, pull it down here. Kind of shows me, there you go, there's my next stop. Right there. So I'm right here, and I'm gonna pass Ocala National Forest, and then Osceola. I know I'm mispronouncing these things. I apologize if you're from here and I'm killing it, but that's my next stop. Let's see what that one is. That one, 5 stalls, 6 doors. It's 150 kilowatt max, which once again, maybe what we'll do is we'll see what other ones there are along the way. And maybe we'll stop, as you can tell right there. So that one that's a 250. So for some reason that one is a 150. It's keep picking the 150s for me to stop at. Might be smarter to stop at that one. That's a 150. How about that one? Yeah, that's a 250. So maybe that's the one I go to instead of the 150. And we'll see if that's doable. Because usually that number of how much energy I have when I get to the supercharger, usually that's right on 14%. So I should be able to make the one that's a little bit farther. Anyway, there you go. That's how it works. I don't know why Tesla keeps routing me to the push the button, plug it in. I don't know why they keep routing me, or why the system keeps routing me to the 150 stalls. I think Car and Driver did a story. Oh, look at that. How cool is that? I thought I was the only red car here, but there is a black car, so black and a red. For a second there, I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool picture. Dang, the black car. But yeah, I don't know why it does that. But like I said, Car and Driver, or Road and Tracker, or Motor Trend, those did a story, and they said that the difference between the 150s and the 250s is not a lot, a couple minutes, maybe at most. But, I'm kind of a typical American, and that is, why go to a 150 when you can go to a 250? Let's put as much energy in this car as fast as possible so you can get as far down the road as possible. Maybe that's my Type A coming through, but anyway, that's how it goes. And Wawa, Alex on our team is from Philly. He always goes to these. They're really good, actually. Quite clean, quite enjoyable, and so far, so good. All right, so how far is my next stint? 2 hours and 17 minutes. Time to listen to some podcasts. I've been listening to the Intercooler right now. I've been listening to Motor Trends as well. And Monday means that Jason Camiza also has his podcast, so I'm going to listen to those. And yeah, we'll see you guys at the next charger. Gosh, it's hot here, 91 and muggy. See you in a bit. Bye. I am about 21 miles short of my next charging stop, which is Jasper Live Oak. And I'm almost through Florida, thank God. What a long state. And so far, so good. So let's talk about a couple things that I am learning about driving across country in an electric car. Now, like I said before, Ford and now GM have both made a deal with Tesla to use their supercharger network, which is going to make it a lot more crowded starting probably next year. But as things stand currently, Tesla is the only car that can not only use a supercharger network, but check this out. With this adapter that you can buy from Tesla for about $250, you can also use the CCS standard, which is Electrify America, for all you newbies to car charging. So with that, I also have the ability to charge at an EA station or at any of the other CCS chargers, which gives me the ability to do what I'm doing now, or gives me more comfort to do what I'm doing now, which is actually skip the suggested charger that Tesla's saying in the route, which would have had me charge right about now at 15%, but skip to the next one, which is a 250, and Tesla says I'm going to get there with about 6% charge. Now, last time it said 5% charge, and it was pretty close, so I trust this. The other thing that gives me comfort in going way down into the battery like that is the fact that the superchargers, unlike the EA stations and some of the other chargers, are usually really good. I can actually click on the charger and it'll tell me not just how much money it's going to cost me, but how many of the stalls are free, and of course how much power it's putting out. So that lets me go much farther into the battery. What I mean by that is down to 5, or in this case 6%, and not feel like I'm going to be stranded on the side of the road begging for electricity with an empty socket. And that's good. And then the other thing, of course, that Tesla does is this, which is Autopilot. And Autopilot is the basic autonomous software you get when you get a Tesla. You can upgrade that to all the way up to full self-driving, which is very expensive. Basically, if you paid for monthly $199 a month, and that lets you do things like, signal, and then the car will change lanes for you, or you can drive in certain areas with your hands off the wheel. With this Autopilot, I got to keep my hands on the wheel. If I keep them off the wheel for too long, it starts yelling at me, and then what happens is eventually, if I don't put my hands, it will disable Autopilot until I cycle the car. In other words, until I turn it on and off, and then it comes back. I find that either traditional adaptive cruise control or even Autopilot, as long as you keep your hand on the wheel and apply a little bit of pressure, there's a torque sensor in this wheel that knows if your hand's on the wheel, works pretty well. But we're in this weird world of, between level 2 and level 5, and level 2 is kind of like hands on, eyes on the road, but hopefully at some point we'll get to both hands off the wheel and eyes off the wheel under any conditions, but that's a long way away. So if I want to make a lane change, let me demonstrate. I signal, because I don't have full self-driving, it basically disengages Autopilot, so then I can make the lane change. Now, because I haven't paid for the monthly fee, I got to do this again, and we're back on Autopilot. Once again, Autopilot is hands on, eyes up on the road. And then, if you don't hit traffic or construction, which of course you will on any road trip, it's just a very pleasant way to while away the day, because you see a lot of the world. You get to listen to your favorite books, and so even though today's a work day, I'm kind of enjoying this road trip, and I'm very glad that I get to be paid for what I would do for free, which is drive. So next stop, like I said, Jasper, Florida, or Jasper, Live Oak. I don't know if that's in Florida or Georgia, but I'm only 14 minutes away, 15 miles, I can't wait to get there and stretch my legs a little bit. That doesn't mean I can't stop somewhere else along the road, but I'm kind of one of these type A people that once I get behind the wheel, I just want to keep going. All right, I'll see you at the rest stop. Actually, Supercharger. Okay, well, let's see what the Supercharger looks like. It's always kind of fun to pull into a Supercharger. You can actually click on the Supercharger, it'll tell you what's around it, which is also a nice feature. I can tell you what's around all the Electrify Americas without actually having to use an app, because they're all, of course, around Walmarts. And Tommy just did the cannonball run in a Tesla, but when I did it with Nathan, we used the CCS. So that meant that what was around was Walmarts. So here are the Superchargers next to a Shell station. This seems to be white Tesla day, so we've got 2 white Teslas, plenty of spaces for me to pull into. And then obviously there's a Wendy's and a bathroom, which is all very, very good. So I'll just pull in here. I'll take the last one. Might as well, since I got plenty of room. And we'll see how many kilowatts we're sucking up. I don't know, I forget how many kilowatt hour battery this Model 3 Performance has. I want to say it's in the 70 range, 70 kilowatt hours. So I'm at 6%. So I think the software told me I'm going to need a charger for about 20 minutes. But the great thing about Teslas is it's very simple. You don't need to do anything except, well, I showed you last time, just, plug it in. And let's see how much power this is putting in. It also knows to precondition the battery because it knows I was going to the supercharger, so it automatically gets the temperature of the battery so that it is hopefully sucking up the most juice possible. And right now that number is pretty big, 168. It's still going up, 172. Hopefully it'll get up to 200. Like I said, the charging curve on this is pretty strong. Starts off very strong, 185 now, and eventually also drops off very quickly. 208. Look at those numbers go. 239, 251. Will we reach 253? 250. I'll take that. Yep, I'll take that any day of the week. All right, it's 4 o'clock. Like I said, I did forget to reset my. Come on, give me this. I did forget to reset my navigation, but so far since I reset it, I've gone 149 miles. You probably add about 200 to that, so I've probably gone about 349 out of my 2,000 mile trip. So yeah, got a ways to go. Already at 10% at 251. How cool is that? And if you're curious, let's see here. We go back to trips. This also tells you energy used and total energy consumed. And unfortunately won't be for my whole trip. This number up here is me. This is Tommy. So don't pay attention to that. And this is since the last charging. All right, I'm going to go hit the bathroom and then continue the journey. I'm not going to bore you with any more supercharging, but you know what? I'll see you when it gets dark, and I'm hopefully pulling into my hotel. And if all goes well, I can find a hotel where I could get a level 2 charger, because I have something else here. Look at this. This is also something pretty cool. All right, glove box. Look at that. I have this. That's an adapter for level 2 charging. So what I can do is I can go to a level 2 charger and plug in overnight if there's not a Tesla destination charger, and hopefully be at 100% to start my trip tomorrow. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, gosh, Roman, this is just a lot of stuff I gotta know that I wouldn't have to deal with if I were in a gas car. And the answer is yes, it is. No way around it. By the way, guys, it also takes some other things to, for instance, drive a truck, like that, DEF fluid, diesel emissions fluid. So you gotta know other things while driving other types of vehicles besides electric vehicles. So for all of you out there like, hey, all I need to do is put gas in my truck. Well, not if it's a diesel. You gotta also pay for that. Now, the thing about Tesla superchargers is they're very straightforward. Just a cable links to your car. But I do miss a screen. I don't know. I think having to do everything through an app on your phone is very handy until your phone is dead. So for better or for worse, that's how Tesla has decided to make things happen. All right, I have made it to Marietta, Georgia, and I've been on the road almost 12 hours now, and let's see if I can tell how many miles I've driven. Unfortunately, like I said, I forgot to reset it, so I'm on B, so 429, really 629 miles I've driven, add about 200 to that. and I've used a total of 129 kilowatt hours. It's 9:30 at night, and I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to try to make it to, is it Mount Eagle, Tennessee, where I'm going to spend the night, and then be on my way tomorrow. The goal, of course, hopefully, is to make it back in 2 days, but 2,000 miles in 2 days, especially when you have to supercharge, is not easy. It's just, probably so far I've added maybe 2 hours to my trip, having to supercharge. But the nice part is I do like to kind of walk around, stretch my feet a little bit, and see what there is to see. Sometimes it's hard to know where, the food is. And here you can tell it's just a very busy supercharger. I think there's 12 stalls and all but 2 are full. But if you go up there, I just took a walk up there, there's a whole bunch of restaurants. And that's also the nice thing about superchargers. They tend to be in places where there's food or Starbucks. And I know there's food at Walmart, but having spent 2,500 miles charging at Walmart's, it's nice to have local fare. Beautiful night. Here in Georgia, perfect temperature, not humid. Glad I got away from the humidity of Florida. But yeah, one more session to go, and then I should be able to stop for the night and grab a bed. I called ahead, booked the hotel room, so I've got a hotel room booked because I'm going to come in at midnight, of course, which is late. And I did get lost a little bit going through downtown Atlanta. Not hard to do, actually pretty easy to do, unfortunately. But I've kind of managed to follow the navigation, get my way back to here, and still arrive here with plenty of power. And that's the nice thing about what Tesla does. It doesn't push you to 5%, which is what I've been doing. Come on, open up. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Always a little, oh, come on. The app doesn't recognize the fact that I'm here. So there goes that guy. So I gotta make sure the app is running. Come on, app. Let's make sure. Tesla app. Tesla app, where are you? Tesla app. Okay. And for some reason, my app last seen 12 hours ago. It's not updating it. So I can't use my app to figure out how much charge I have left, which is kind of frustrating. Now it opens up, of course. So I don't know what's going on there. There's something going on with it. But I haven't been able to figure it out. But I haven't really cared that much because, like I say, I've been just trying to keep driving. So next one, Marietta, Georgia. That's where I'm at. Next one there. Right now I would arrive there, you can see, with 0%. So I got to charge 9 more minutes, and that should get me there with enough to keep going, and hopefully I can charge overnight at the hotel and start or at least next to the hotel, the supercharger, so I can start the trip. If there's a charger at the hotel and it's not occupied 100%, or next to supercharger, I can just start and charge the car and then continue the journey. All right, see you in Tennessee. So I made it to Mount Eagle. As you can tell, it's it's actually 11:01 p.m. I've now switched over to Central Time, which is great. So I've gained an hour versus being 12:01, which is really what it is. But I decided to charge the car here before going to the hotel, which is here, because the car conditioned itself. So I thought might as well take advantage of that 221 kilowatt hours. And, this is where you have to admit that it would be much easier to be in a gas-powered car because you don't have to condition it. You just go fill it up. But like I said, with electric cars, the rules are a little different. And once upon a time, I used to help people relocate when I lived in the Czech Republic and had a real estate office. And what I used to tell them, and I'll kind of share it with you now, is when they would come to Prague, there were things that were not the same as the US. For instance, you couldn't buy anything at any time of night. You couldn't get Diet Coke. You had to go to Germany for that. And if you were used to the convenience of life in America because you were relocating with a company to Prague, that turned out to be difficult. And there were two reactions. Some people thrived and some people hated it. And some people left because of it. So what I figured out quite quickly was that the best way to let people not hate it was to tell them, you know what? It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different. Now, I know that goes against what I said about there being 3 killer apps. Oh, God, 13 hours ago that an electric car has. But I think it's a good way to end the evening, as I'm pretty darn tired and I'm ready to go to bed and hopefully continue this journey tomorrow. The goal is to make it by Tuesday night back to Colorado, but I think I've gone about 700 miles, which leaves 1,300 miles to go, and that is probably too much in one day. Definitely too much, especially when you're trying to do it in an electric car where you add a half hour every 2 hours of driving. So I'm doing the best I can to get back as early as I can, but the reality of the situation is I may not be able to make it tomorrow, maybe more like Wednesday. But it is a long way, and yeah, I'll be happy to be home. All right, I'll see you tomorrow morning, guys. All right, good morning, good morning. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning and day 2 of my road trip. So what is it like to road trip an electric vehicle? Is it a disaster or is it terrific? Well, one of the things I can tell you right now is I would be much happier if this hotel, the Quality Inn here, I think it's Mount Eagle, just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, had electric car chargers instead of these gold, platinum, and diamond member parking. No, I didn't park here. I just parked here to get my luggage. So, as you know, I did charge up last night to about half the battery, but it would have been really nice if I could have, gotten a charge overnight, which I wasn't able to do. All right, let me look at the app, and this is a problem I've had the whole trip. If you look over here, you can see that the app is not talking to the car. Last seen 21 hours ago. Now, why that is a pain in the butt is because when I go to the bathroom and I'm charging, or I go to a restaurant, the car, unfortunately, doesn't communicate with the app, so I don't know what state of charge it's in. And I think it's the car because Tommy's app is also not working. I did try to reset the app, so there is something I could do, which would be to basically hit this button at the same time and do a hard reset to the car. But last time I did that, if you recall, I was in the Hummer EV and that didn't turn out so well. If you want to watch that video, just go to alltfl.com. Now, if you're wondering where I'm at, I am right there, and I have to make it to Nashville right there to that supercharger. I've got about 48% of the battery because I did charge last night, and I've got 1,260 miles to go. That's about 18 hours of driving without charging, so I'm going to try to make it home, but that's a really long way. The one thing I do remember about road tripping is America's just a really big country, and you sometimes forget about that until you try to road trip. So go from here to here, and hour and 33 minutes, and then charge up. I'll get there with 12% of the battery, and charge up, and then finally I think I make the turn west and I head to Colorado. So I suppose the next time we'll talk is talk about what it's like to actually not road trip an EV, but road trip a Model 3. How is that on a long road trip? Is it roomy enough? Is it comfortable? Does it, provide a good living car? I guess that's a bad way of putting it. Is it a great place to spend a lot of time? Let's put it that way. All right, let's hit the road and keep going, because like I said, I'd really love to make it home tonight. I don't like spending time at these roadside motels. I spent $150 to spend the night here. It's one of those hotels where the room is clean, but it smells too much of disinfectant. You wonder what's hiding underneath that smell. All right, let's hit the road and keep on. Well, in this case, not trucking, but keep on driving. So it seems like my cunning plan to make it home tonight by stopping an hour outside of Nashville kind of backfired. As you can tell, I'm in stop and go traffic, trying to go the wrong way into Nashville, and because I have to kind of stick to the superchargers, I have to kind of go on this route. So I've been stuck in this traffic now for about the last 20 minutes. It certainly slowed me down. Ironically, there's an HOV lane next to me, but it just says HOV 2 more. It doesn't say anything about 80, so I'm not sure I can use that, and don't want to naturally do it without having the proper permissions. So it's all coming to a grinding slow start for day 2. Unfortunately, you can see the traffic way out there. Let me kind of zoom in for you. There you go. Yep, that's the traffic. Morning Nashville traffic. It is 7:13 a.m. here. I came here for the first time like 12 years ago when Nissan moved here, and they moved to Franklin, which is, I guess, the road that I'm on actually. And it was such a sleepy little town, and now, of course, Nashville is booming, and I'm stuck in the boom. All right. Well, you can't have it all be zipping along at the highest freeway speed. Sometimes you hit a bump in the road, and in this case, I've hit a lot of bumps in the road. All right, a bit of a snag. I made it to Nashville and the Supercharger here, and as you can tell, I'm charging at 165 kilowatts, which isn't horrible, but isn't great. And now it says 45 minutes to continue the trip, which is pretty long, probably the longest that I would ever spend charging. I think the plan, if I can, is to hopefully. Let me grab the key to my car here, which is my phone. Okay, there we go, got my phone. The plan is to see where the next one is and hopefully not spend 45 minutes here charging. And that's really been the biggest disappointment on this trip so far. I think that's a bank, that's a shopping center, that's kind of a loaf and jug, I think, gas station, but really, no place to use a bathroom. I mean, take a look at the shopping center, maybe go in the grocery store to use the bathroom. So tons of superchargers here and a grocery store, but convenient, no. A disaster, no. As good as, stopping along the highway without having to go find this supercharger. That's probably been the hardest and most disappointing part on this trip. I don't know how many times I've charged, maybe 10 so far. And I gotta tell you, even though the navigation takes you there, these superchargers aren't exactly obvious. And so compared to finding a gas station, certainly much trickier and not nearly as convenient. So I'm gonna go try to find a bathroom now, and then I'm gonna see on my route if there are any other superchargers. I really don't want to spend 45 minutes sitting here waiting for this to charge to continue the trip. That's almost an hour. That seems crazy. And maybe I can somehow work, the system where I can spend more time driving and less time supercharging. And maybe that's not possible, but hey, now it's becoming more of a challenge and less of more of an adventure and less of just a road trip. All right, let's see what's going on here. Actually, before I find the bathroom, let's see if we can figure that out. So I'm right there. I'm supposed to go there, and that one is 7 stalls available in Marion, Illinois. It's a 250, which is good. But let's see if there are any others along the way. Yeah, there are others. Let's see what this guy is. That guy is a 150, 8 stalls, and that's in Cuttawa, Kentucky. So there is another one along the way, which, I probably wouldn't need to charge as far to get to. Any others along the way? No, that's about it. So I can either go to that one, which is, let's see, can you see where it's at? These are all near me. You see the one in Cuttawa? I don't see it. Supercharger, Huntsville, Cuttawa. So that's 102 miles. So I'm going to need a lot more than 37% to get there. But maybe what we'll do is, instead of spending 40 minutes here, we'll go for that one. And then, I think that may be the plan, even though it's only a 150. We'll see. Let's see how much power I have when I get back from using the bathroom. But a lot fewer superchargers now. Let's see what this one is. That one is a 150, 7 stalls, Mount Vernon, Illinois. That's also along the trip. So it's getting a little sparser now that I'm kind of in rural Kentucky, or at least rural Tennessee once I get out of Nashville. So there you have it. Terrific? No. Disaster? No. Less convenient and longer than gas? Hell yeah. So I just got back from the grocery store, bought some bananas, and you know what? I'm down to 75 kilowatts charging right now, and I've got 30 more minutes to continue the trip. And there's a supercharger along the way, so I'm not going to sit here and wait for another 30 minutes to basically fill this car up so that I can make it this long stretch when there's a supercharger along the way. I don't know why Tesla doesn't want me to stop at the one along the way, but that's what I'm going to do. It just makes a lot more sense than sitting here while we're getting deep into the battery and the charging slows down. So give me a second. I'm going to go unplug and hit the road. All right, I'm back. Now, patience has never been one of my virtues, so keep that in mind, guys. But I gotta say, here in this parking lot next to a shopping center with a grocery store and a defunct Indian restaurant and no garbage cans and no place for, really, if you have kids, for them to go to a playground is not exactly what I would call ideal location to spend 40 minutes at. All you really have to do is sit in the car and be on your phone, or I guess you could play some of the games that the Tesla has built into the system. But I've heard in Europe that they have these really great charging centers where there's like workspace and places to relax and coffee shops, a space for the kids to go and play, and a park with picnic benches. This is a far cry. This is a far cry from that, and not exactly ideal as a 40-minute stop on a 2,000-mile journey. Is a Buc-ee's better? Yeah, it's better, but also not great if you're in a gas-powered car. By the way, gas was $3.23 a gallon there, in case you were curious. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of potential here, for improvement to make the charging experience and the driving experience in an electric car much better. Is that really going to happen? Yeah, probably not. But you know, I think it's probably going to get worse before it gets better as more and more people get electric cars and as more and more non-Teslas actually start using Tesla superchargers. And I'm a little bit disappointed right now, obviously, because I don't know why the system made me sit there for another 30 minutes while it, try to get me deep into the battery when there is a supercharger along the way. That might be a much quicker option. So I don't know, maybe that's a slower option. I don't know. The system obviously has a lot of experience with other Teslas coming through here, but this is the great thing about this car. 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds, left the Maverick in the dust, and really that's when it gets fun, using a Tesla, but you can't do that often, right? Oh, scheisse. More traffic along the way. Ay, look at this. Downtown Nashville traffic again. I just want to get out of Nashville. This has been the worst part of my trip by far. See, had I known this, I probably would have ended up supercharging more. Let me show you guys. This is what I'm looking at. Let me go zoom in. See? Maybe I would have stayed at the supercharger longer had I known I was going to stick in traffic. But anyway, that's enough of that. I've got probably another 1,200 miles to go. So yeah, maybe this is the every trip has its ups and downs, and maybe this is the down part of my trip. And hopefully next time you see me, I'll be zooming along, making up time, and not being so grumpy about where I'm supercharging and what the system is doing to get me to Colorado as quickly and efficiently as possible. All right, let's hit the road again. All right, I am just outside of St. Louis. Actually, I'm in St. Louis where the Tesla, oh, for God's sake, stop with the, come on, just turn that off for a second. Took me to this supercharger, 250 kilowatts, that's good, but it's in an area called Green Street, and there's a dog park that's over there, so I need to use the bathroom and get some food because it's like lunchtime. So me and those people walked over there, and they said we are an off-leash dog park, so if you want to use a restaurant or the bathroom or even come in, you got to fill them out this form. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks. So I'm gonna see if there's any other superchargers along the way. Yeah, there's many more, hopefully, or maybe not. I'm looking for superchargers. Yeah, I'm just gonna get the hell out of here. It's like an industrial area around St. Louis, not a good supercharger location, yeah, nothing here, just construction and unfriendly dog park people. So I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Let the Tesla reroute me. I'm thinking about actually potentially using Electrify America stop, but this has certainly been very unpleasant. And I don't know why they put a charger here in this industrial park, but yeah, this part I would call a disaster. Yeah, definitely a disaster, Tesla. No fun, no bueno here. Gotta pee like a racehorse. And you took me to an office complex with an office with the dog park. What the hey? All right, I have just left the supercharger just outside of St. Louis, and it rerouted me to another supercharger, I think in Columbia. But I gotta tell you, that was a very bad experience. Here's the problem with road tripping a Tesla by yourself. I have to drive, obviously, which means that I can't be doing all of the kind of route planning, so I have to rely completely on Tesla's route planner. And I found that Tesla's route planner does a really good job and a really crap job, depending on how it feels, I guess. The last stop, it wanted me to charge well into the battery, well past 80%, having me sit at a gas station for 50 minutes, which is just stupid. You never want to charge past 80% on a road trip. I'd rather charge to 80 because that last 10% is going to take you as long as the first 90%. So I'd rather charge to 80 and then drive and charge again and drive and charge again. But instead, it keeps trying to get me to charge as high as possible, basically maximizing the amount of time I spend at gas stations, or in this case, in industrial park with no bathrooms at a supercharger. So that's really the trick to this. It's hard by yourself because you really can't be doing route planning on the fly because you're in traffic and you're trying to keep from obviously hitting other people and crashing the car. If I had, like we did with the D2D, and like Tommy had 2 other people, we could actually plan this out much better. I could actually be using Electrify America stops. I could be picking my superchargers where there are bathrooms and where there are places to eat that I want to eat, as opposed to places to eat that Tesla thinks I want to eat. So I'm going to go out and say right now that part is a complete disaster. You're basically stuck on a route plan that you didn't plan, and even though you can add superchargers, the problem is to do that you sit there longer trying to figure out where you should be stopping. I would think that Tesla would be smart enough, or hopefully create a route plan in such a way that it would put me in places where there's food and gas stations and restaurants and toilets and people, maybe interesting things. And usually the superchargers are in those places. I mean, let's face it, Electrify America chargers are always at Walmart's. But this part of it's been a disaster. So we know that. Now, has it been a dream? When compared to the cannonball that Nathan and I did, where we went from Disney and Anaheim, basically Disneyland to Disney World, it's a dream because we're not stopping at EA stations that are in every Walmart. So I guess that is even worse because a lot of those are like way off the beaten path. So you're adding a lot of miles to your journey because you're driving. Remember in San Antonio, we basically had to drive 20 miles out of our way just to get to the EA because it was downtown San Antonio, or not downtown, it was somewhere in the suburbs of San Antonio, whereas we were on the highway. So in that regard, it is much nicer. Now, let's just be honest about this. It sucks still compared to a gasoline car. There's just no way around that. You can do it, you can plan around it, but compared to a gas car, it sucks because now I am depending on route planning, and I am depending on a very limited amount of superchargers or EA stations compared to the millions of gas stations that dot everywhere. So I am on somebody else's agenda basically versus being on my own. So in that way, it is a disaster, at least compared to a regular ICE car. I'm looking at another 12 hours of driving, at least another 4 hours of supercharging, and here's where the rubber meets the road. If I were in a gas car, at this point, I could get home at 1 o'clock, basically. But because I got to supercharge and I got to stop, my time to get home from St. Louis is turned into a 14-hour trip, which puts me in at sometime 4 in the morning. And I could drive till 1, and I could sleep in my own bed. But because of the supercharging and because of the fact that it's going to take me at least another 2 hours or 3 hours of added time, I'm going to have to now basically spend another night at a hotel. And last night wasn't grand because, like I said, it was so over-perfumed that I was wondering when dog took a dump on the carpet, and I was hoping to spend the next night in my own bed. So right now, disaster more than dream, at least when compared to an internal combustion engine car. And all of you people out there might be saying, well, you know, at least you're spending less money, you're not polluting with, you know, the fact that all these cars around me are obviously putting a lot more gunk into the air. Yeah, but I just want to sleep in my own bed, and I think the economics of it are such that a lot of people will want to sleep in their own bed, and the cost, like Tommy said, when you're supercharging is pretty much at $3.20 a gallon, is not that much cheaper. So let's see how I feel as I keep driving, and thanks for joining me, but I'm not home yet. Alright, so I made it to Columbia, and I am not as grumpy as I was in St. Louis, simply because, you know, you get a lot of chance to think on a road trip, and let's face it, every time I've pulled up to a supercharger, there's been plenty of places to supercharge. I've had none that have not worked, unlike the issues we had with Electrify America sometimes, or some of the other services. So they are reliable, I'll give them that, and so far they're plentiful in terms of, you know, I think there's something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like a dozen chargers here, which is a lot. Now, the one thing that is odd though is the Tesla had me drive to a supercharger that was about 2 miles from here, that was a level 2, 150 kilowatt, and I decided to go a little farther, go a little deeper into the battery, come here. So I'm about 1.5 miles off the highway, a little farther, but these are 250s. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you faster charge? That's the odd thing. But yeah, a little bit less grumpy. The car is very comfortable. Hi. Waving hi to the locals. But keep in mind, guys, I'm coming from a world where, you know, on TFL truck, guys and gals like to have the big 36-gallon tanks, because then when you're towing or when you're not towing, you don't have to stop as often, or you stop when you want, not when you have to. And I think that's going to change over time. I think battery tech is going to get better. What isn't going to get better is the number of cars here. Gosh, I think we're going to see, we're going to be in for some interesting times when, like I said, Fords and GM start pulling up here, and Teslas, like that guy over there, are forced to wait for the Tesla charger. I don't know if that's good for Tesla owners. It probably is very good for Ford and GM owners. And keep in mind, we also have a Bolt as part of the fleet. All right, well, I'm going to keep going. It is now almost 5 o'clock. Kansas lies ahead of me. It's a long way through Kansas, and not a very exciting way. Let's see where we're at charging. I also understand why the Tesla would make you go deeper than 80% of the battery. Never want to do that. Right now I'm at 71%, and let's see, I'm at -1 to get to the Topeka, Kansas charger, so very close to making that. But let's see if I do that. Let's see how many chargers there are along the way. So I think it's making me go to maybe that one. Yeah, that's the one. That's a 250, 8 stalls. Oh no, I'm going, where am I going? Yeah, that's where I'm going. Yeah, that one right there. Got a little confused. So that's good, but next to it, what's over here? That's a 150. So this time it is taking me to the 250. That one is also a 250, a little bit ahead of it, so I could stop at that one. Then over here you can click and see what kind of food there is. It's going to be about dinner time when I get there. So Godfather Pizza Express at that one. Yikes, it's not grand. Go back, come on, show me the other ones. How about this guy? What does that one have? Let's look at food-wise. That one has, oh shoot, a lot more choices for food. And it is nice that Tesla gives you all this information as to, you know, what's nearby. All right, now I've got my limit set to 100. I never go to that, but that's where I have it set to. And right now, if I left right now, I get there exactly at 0%, and then charge for 20 minutes. And this is good. Next couple I charge for 20 minutes, 35, 15, and then guess what? I'm home. So a lot quicker charging. So I think I'm going to go with what the car's recommending. I think I'm going to do that just because the charging seems to be much more reasonable. Let's see what this one is. Can you touch it? That one I can't tell if that's a 150. I wish they put the designation right there if it's 150 kilowatt or, ooh, now I'm at 1%. And usually I think what Tesla's going to want to make me do is go to like, I don't know, 12 minutes, maybe 80%, so I have a little bit more cushion. 1% probably means I won't make it there. You don't want to get there with 1%. That's a nail biter. No fun on a road trip. So I'll give it another, I'll probably have to go to 80%, and I'll be comfortable with that, just because anything above 80 just takes too long. I'm charging at 70 kilowatts right now, which is getting pretty low. But yeah, now it's going a little bit better. Listening to my books on tape, enjoying that. And yeah, I really thank you guys for joining me on this trip. It makes going 2,000 miles from Florida to Colorado a little bit more fun, knowing that I have you guys to keep me company. All right, let's see where we're at now. Oh, 2%. What percentage do I roll the dice? Certainly not at 2. I'll let it go a little bit farther. Okay. Oh, that means I gotta, the next drive is 2 hours and 38 minutes. Good thing I went and got my iced tea. So I'm about 400 miles from Denver as the sun is setting on day 2, and I was hoping to make it home tonight, but I've been traveling now for 15 hours, which is a lot. But the nice thing about being in an electric car is that you get to stop, in this case, about every hour and a half to every 2 hours. The not so nice thing is that there are bathrooms, Like I said, I was a little frustrated tonight because, well, I couldn't find a bathroom, and when you gotta pee, you gotta pee. But there are worse ways to travel, you know. I think to myself that we're probably just in the original days of the electric car. You know, this is barely out of Model T range right now. You know, unless the infrastructure greatly improves. I mean, greatly. Forget about, you know, what we have now. Double, triple, quadruple what we have and make it pleasant and put in nice service areas with all kinds of amenities. The gas car is still king. And compared to a non-Tesla, I wouldn't say it's a dream, but it's much better. Maybe it is a dream.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test.
Well, it's raining very hard. In fact, so hard that it's hard to see the road. Luckily, the lightning does a good job in illuminating the road. And I'm, oh gosh, about 100 miles due east of Hays, Alaska, where I'm going to spend the night. And I grew up in the Midwest, in Chicago, so when you get this kind of weather, you also worry about, of course, one other thing, especially in Kansas, and that's tornadoes. Let me zoom in on that. You can kind of see how hard it is to see where I'm going. If it gets much worse, or if it actually starts hailing, I might have to stop and pull underneath the overpass. But, you know, in every trip, a little rain must fall. And, oh my God, this reminds me of more than a little rain. But it certainly woke me up. I've been on the road now for about 16 hours and just finished charging in Abilene and saw some lightning, and now guess what? Lightning's turned into this. So here's another conundrum that I figured out. I called, actually I had Tommy call and book me a hotel in Hayes, which is where I stopped for the night. The problem there is that the hotel that had chargers, while Tommy was trying to book it, sold out. So now I'm faced with supercharging tonight when the car's battery is warmed up, because I'll be at I'll be at 14% when I get there. Okay, we're doing better now. Finally, it's letting up a little bit. Yeah, so supercharging tonight. I'm already tired. I'm gonna get there at 11:20. Let me turn my hazards off now. Come on, hazards. There we go. So I gotta charge tonight while the battery is warm, or wait there. Oh, come on. Hazards, turn off. Or wait there tomorrow morning while the battery warms up so I can charge. Now, Tommy did find me a Walmart so I can use the 350 kilowatt instead of the Electrify America instead of the 150 kilowatt supercharger. So maybe I won't have to spend that long charging tonight. But these are things you would. Oh God, here we go again. It's getting bad again. Oh my! And the car's pulling in. Just what you want to see. Just what you want to see. Anyway, like I was saying, I might have to supercharge tonight so I can get on the way early tomorrow morning as opposed to sitting around waiting for the battery to warm up at the EA at the Walmart. So, yeah. Now it's getting interesting. Kind of wish I had a Raptor R, if I'm being honest. And the crazy thing is, here's a takeaway. I probably spent close to 5 hours or 6 hours charging, and I'm 6 hours from home. So had I been in a Raptor R, which admittedly only gets 13 mpg, out of a 700 horsepower V8, I would have been home already in my own bed. But now I'm dealing with this, and then more charging before I even get my head into a pillow. So these are the realities of cross-country tripping in a Tesla. Everybody says, you know, if you want to go cross-country, get yourself a Tesla. Well, I'm gonna tell you, it ain't all it's cracked up to be. Forget about, you know, CCS. Tesla still has a long way to go. In fact, as a culture, we have a long way to go. Oh my gosh. All right, guys, I need to stop recording and concentrate on driving. I'll see you when I get to the hotel. All right, I made it to Hayes, Kansas, and to the Supercharger because, well, the car has preconditioned itself, so it should be quicker to charge now. But let's see, I might just go to the hotel. I didn't go to the Walmart because I don't know where the Walmart is. I gotta tell you, yeah, this is not grand over here. I mean, if my wife were here, hiding, kind of, this Tesla Supercharger is kind of right behind a restaurant. Nobody's around. There's this kind of a scary pickup truck behind me that's been kind of circling. Don't know what that's about. Let me show you. Right there. Not that pickup truck is scary, but never know what that's about. So yeah, not a grand location for a supercharger. Let's see how long this takes. Let's see what this says. This is a 150, so let's see if it goes up to 150 or not. But yeah, if, like I say, car sitting over there. I mean, it's midnight now, or close to it, and really don't know, you know, what's going on here. So 13 kilowatts, 26, sitting here at midnight for 20 minutes. Yeah, 138. I think the plan is is just to go to the hotel. I don't like this. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know what those guys are doing over there in the pickup truck. I don't know why they're over there. But I don't like strange cars slowly driving around. They're parking behind me, or in this case, strange trucks. Like I said, we could do so much better here in America than this. We could do so much better. I mean, look at this. Really? Okay, Tommy tried to book me a hotel, and let me put my seatbelt on here. So, Tommy tried to book me a hotel that had a charger, but that got snapped up as he was talking to me on the phone. So we've got all these hotels here, and I'm staying, I think, at the Hilton. I'm paying, with his Expedia discount, $130 a night, which also seems a lot for Hayes, Alaska. But according to a PlugShare, no charger. Of course, why would there be a charger? Why would you want to put a charger in? And I don't even know where the Hilton is. I'm just assuming it's right. It could be left. But why would you want to put a charger in? Hey, there's a Walmart. That's got the superchargers. Maybe I can try those. See how quick the car charges off the supercharger. It's kind of late to be doing these tests, but why not? Oh, those are just in the middle of the parking lot. Not as spooky as the ones behind whatever restaurant that was. Oh, and there's the that's a Holiday Inn Express. That's not the Hilton. How do I get to the how do I get to the Walmart? I'm guessing this way? Nope, not this way. I'm hoping it's this way. But I'm curious. I want to try a supercharger, see if I can get more than 134. Oh, of course, there's no way to get in there this way. Why would there be? All right, let's see. So maybe this way, and this way, the back way. Maybe I can actually find the Hilton. So this looks like it might be Walmart-y. Yep, this is Walmart-y. And there's a supercharger. I do have the adapter, like I said. I've only used it once so far, but let me pull in here. And this is a 350, so we should be, and then on PlugShare it says use 2 or 4. The way these guys work is they're all numbered, so which one is this one? That's a hyperfast, yeah, 350. That's 4. All right, we'll try 4. All right, let me give that a shot and see how that works. All right, so let's see what this guy's doing. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want my phone number. Really don't want my phone number. Anyway, I had a struggle. This cable didn't work. The car said it wasn't connected, but here I've got the adapter. So now I'm charging, so we can see on the screen on the car how much power we're getting. So we're already up to 164 kilowatts on a 350. I was hoping to get a little bit more than that. 55 minutes remaining to 100% charge, and I don't know if that's because I think I'm on, yeah, it says hyper, so that's a 350. So hyper, up to 350. Let's see what this guy says. Okay, let's see what this guy says now. There we go. 169 kilowatts. Better than the Tesla. It's up to 170 now. Gone up by 1. But yeah, the problem with, of course, Electrify America, God, these cables are just so... This one's already... The CCS DC fast charger is already half hosed up. And I'm paying 37 cents a minute here. So yeah, normally I'd be at the hotel, but apparently this one doesn't have a plug. So ideally you go to the hotel, plug it in, and just, have a charge overnight. But because the car is conditioned to get the most energy right now, I'm doing it tonight when I should be laying down, or better yet, when I should be at home laying down. And the reason for that is because I've charged when the battery hasn't been preconditioned, and you just sit there because the car tries to then heat up the battery, and then it takes forever, and yada yada yada. Anyway, I think I've bored you enough for today. I'm tired. I've been driving now for like 17 hours. I just want to go to bed. So I'm gonna get a little bit of a charge here, go find a hotel, and yeah guys, I'll see you tomorrow, day 3 of this epic road trip to get from Marco Island, Florida to Boulder, Colorado, 2,000 miles. 3 days. Wow. Ouch. Oh, 173 now. Woohoo! All right, day 3 of my 2,000 mile trip across America. Now, I don't want this to turn into a grumpy guy review. I mean, certainly there have been challenges along the way, getting from Marco Island to Colorado, but another day, a beautiful morning, and I'm ready to get this done. And I think part of my frustration has come from the fact that my life now for the last 2 days has consisted of nothing but, hey, an electric charger here would be nice. It's consisted of nothing but drive, find a charger, charge, rinse, and repeat. And that gets really old after a while, especially when people in all of these cars are just zipping by. Now, all you Tesla fan boys and fangirls, you're gonna of course find fault with me doing this. You're like, you should have spent more time planning. You should have spent more time figuring out the route. But these guys don't have to do that. They go wherever they want. And maybe that's the biggest lesson I've learned driving this Model 3 across America. And that is, if you're by yourself, it takes a considerable amount more preparation. And even though everybody in my community that I know, and I'm talking about the automotive press, thinks that the best road trip car is a Tesla because of the ubiquitous amount of superchargers, what I realized on this trip is that there are nowhere near enough of them in the right locations. Now, luckily, since I did use the EA last night, I'm ready to go. I've got, I think, about 63% of the battery charged, which should take me to the next one, so I don't have to spend the morning basically warming up or preheating the battery while I sit at the supercharger waiting for enough charge to get to the next supercharger. So I guess I would say if you're a fanboy of or fangirl of Tesla, think about the fact that that's what you have to do in that, but you don't have to do it in that. In fact, that may have a giant gas tank that lets you just drive as long as you want. But I guess what you give up in convenience, you make up for in silent luxury. Yeah, it's true that. All right, so 63% of the battery. I'm going to Colby, Kansas, where the next supercharger is. I'm going to get there with 9% of the charge, and that's usually pretty accurate. And let's face it, I've been driving, if you've noticed, a little bit above the speed limit, maybe 5 to 7 miles above the speed limit, but I think that's pretty normal, especially here in these vast open stretches of Kansas where there's, you know, a lot of John Deere tractors, and nothing else. All right, let's get this journey done. I am ready to be done. I'm ready to be home. I am ready to put an end to this video, as I'm sure you guys are if you've made it this far into it. All right, let's see here. One more check. Okay, trip. Let's see how far I've driven. Be 1,500 plus 200, so 1,700. So about 300 more miles to go, and that's exciting because that's roughly 5 hours or so with charging, maybe a little bit less. All right, hit the road, Roman. As I get back on the highway, let's talk about full self-driving, enhanced autopilot, and of course Autopilot. Now, when we first bought this car, we subscribed to full self-driving, which can be purchased for either $15,000, yep, that's right, or $199, I believe, per month. What we found out was that we basically just got enhanced autopilot because apparently you have to be approved by Tesla. I think it's still true for full self-driving, so we were like, what's the value of that? Now, with an enhanced autopilot, what you get is the ability, well, let me show you. So I'm pulling onto the highway. I've set, like I said, my maximum speed about 7 miles an hour above the posted speed limit. Then I just press down once, and that basically turns on adaptive cruise control, so that the car now stays, in my opinion, too far behind the car in front of it, but you know, that's my opinion. Now, if you want autopilot, then you push twice, autopilot gets engaged, and now you can keep your hands off the wheel for a limited amount of time. Works great lane centering, doesn't ping pong back and forth, but there is one issue, and I know I'm getting to be grumpy guy again, but if I keep my hands on the top where I like to keep my hands, oftentimes, because there's a torque sensor, basically a sensor to see how much torque is being placed on the wheel, and I just kind of rest my hands and let the weight of them fall to my elbows, the car seems to think that I'm not holding on. Yeah, it's weird. You'd think that it would know that my hands are on the wheel. Some manufacturers actually, I think, have sensors in the steering wheel to tell you that know that there's hands on, but Tesla does it with a torque sensor. I think it might be cheaper. And what ends up happening often is if you're driving like this, or if you put your hand on the bottom of the steering wheel like this, and I'll demonstrate, the car will at some point yell at me to put my hands back on the wheel, and that gets pretty annoying. Now, what you don't get with autopilot is the ability for the car to do lane changes automatically. So, for instance, there's a RV in front of me right now, and obviously I don't want to hit him, so I'm going to signal, and that's going to disengage autopilot, and now I'm back to just normal adaptive cruise control. Anyway, that's autopilot, and in general, it works as advertised. Is it grand? No. Is it bad? No. It is what it is. And I'm glad this car has it. I think, you know, it is something that Tesla has pioneered, and I got to give them a lot of props for doing that. I just wish they had called it Autopilot Full Self-Driving. And again, the other manufacturers, you know, are really confusing it because they got a bunch of acronyms for all this stuff. So I don't think anybody's really done a good job of explaining to people exactly where we're at. Once again, I know my hands are on the steering wheel. Please see, this is what I'm talking about. All right, I've got, let's see here. Got an hour 26 to the next Supercharger, 105 miles, and a lot more cornfields to go. Wahoo, look at this. Lyman, Colorado. 2 minutes remain to continue trip. So I made it to my very last Supercharger. And yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's been a long trip, and I made it back home, and I am, what's it say here, 1 hour and 38 minutes away from finally getting home after 3 days of being on the road. And I want to thank you guys for joining me on this very long road trip across 2,000 miles of the United States. Now, I'm going to leave you with one last thought. You probably have been watching this, if you made it this far, and you know how I feel about what it's like to actually road trip across America in a Tesla. So I won't bore you with a conclusion, but I will leave you with one little bit of a conclusion. Let me spin the camera around. And that is, like I said before, you know, I would have been home by now if I had been in an internal combustion engine car. But if you're like me and you like to try new things, then maybe the best way to look at this is not that it's better or worse, but that it's different. In other words, if you're one of those people who loves the destination, I'd stick with an internal combustion. But if you love the journey, this may be for you. As always, this is Roman saying thank you for watching. Remember, check out alltfl.com for more news, views, and of course, real world reviews. And I will see you guys next time, or maybe next time on the road, once I'm kind of done and recouped from 3 days of being in a Tesla. Ciao.